This is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Got a game day.
Holy, thank goodness.
Toronto Maple Leafs set to go against the Chicago Blackhawks, Scotiabank Arena. Almost feels like the start of the season for us.
Well, the players must too. Like, are they out of shape? It feels like there hasn't been much hockey lately.
There is a lull. There's no question that there is a lull, and it's going to pick up. Month of March is nuts too.
Is it? I
Yeah,
haven't really looked at it.
It's almost like they play every other day.
Thank
goodness.
God. Listen, like, love you, Kyper, and love catching up at the start of every show, but talking about Leafs games might be a little better.
For sure. It's Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Derek Brandeo, Jen Rolick, Sammy McKee, and soon to be in studio, the one, the only, Darren Pang, who is in town to cover the game for TNT.
It's in the building.
He is in the building and will be joining us momentarily. He'll be a lot of fun. Of course, we've done this before with Eddie Olchuk.
Yeah.
And we had a absolutely great response from everybody listening. Sportsnet 590, The Fan, our YouTube channel, Sportsnet Now, iTunes, Spotify. It's great to have guests actually come in.
God, you're so popular
My
today.
phone's on
Is
fire right
everything
now.
okay?
And it just dawned on me that there's a silent button and I should use it right now.
Man, you're a popular fella.
So it's all good. So what do you think? Tonight, Chicago, a team that they're supposed to beat.
Yeah.
We pretty much said that about Columbus on Saturday night. That didn't happen.
If you wanted to win $10 betting on the Leafs tonight, you'd have to put up 60 to win. That's
Stop
how.
it.
Yeah, it's the longest odds I've seen all season.
How would that have compared to playing Columbus at home after you beat the crap out of them Friday night?
Great question. I think they were like minus 450, so $45 to win 10 in that game, and they lost. They were minus 550, so bet 55 to win 10 against Arizona and lost. And the only other time they were above minus 500, they played Anaheim on a back-to-back, and they beat them 7-0.
Now, does these ridiculous odds to put up so much money to win so little have everything to do with the fact that Chicago got spanked in Montreal and they got into Toronto 2:00 in the morning?
Yes, that's exactly it. And this is the thing, though. I mean, it was Columbus on a back-to-back, too, and Columbus going on the road when you're playing in your home building, supposed to be able to handle that. But, yes, it is the same theory that, Chicago's had a tough trip here, played last night, lost last night, isn't good. But that has gotten away from the Leafers in the past.
You think there's any anxiety for the hockey club against a team that I think Luke Richardson said may have been one of their worst efforts of the season last night? And
oh, boy.
Can they look like the contending team that they should, playing against one of the worst teams in the league tonight for 60 minutes?
The Leafs certainly should, and we do have some commentary from Keefe on that, which I think we'll get to most of that in the second half as we wait for Darren Pang. But the idea for the Leafs is this is the opportunity to show that you're not taking teams lightly, that you can still be pros and execute against teams that, maybe aren't on your level. Oh, I see Panger coming, Kyper. He's wearing a suit. He's going to make us look like fools. Look at this, man.
Hi, Kyper.
Panger, what's up?
Come on, big guy.
Come on in.
The one, the only, Mr. Darren Pang.
How you doing, boys?
Good, how are you? Good to
See you, pal.
All right, bud.
Thanks for doing this.
Well, yeah, it's 5 minutes away. This place.
Good.
That's what you said, right?
We had
5 minutes away.
Was it also 20 minutes for you, just like Eddie
I
O?
told Eddie Olchuk the same thing.
You're
Yeah,
such a beauty.
He gave me crap.
Unbelievable. Anyway, nice to be here.
If you make a couple of lights on Jarvis, you're fine.
Uber guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what
What do you think
go.
I'm driving?
Yes. So
I thought you were going to come pick me up.
I would have, but
And probably a car that's a dealer car that you got free in the city.
That's accurate, yes.
if I don't lead the pregame meetings
Oh, yeah.
for the Real Kyper and Bourne show, it just dies. The show just dies.
Okay, you lead what meetings?
Our pregame meetings.
I've I've been with you a lot of shows. I don't recall him leading.
Yes.
You know, I didn't feel for a second like I had to defend myself
you
there
didn't.
because you've been through it.
No, you're good. You're all good.
How's your schedule?
Right now,
Yes.
schedule? Good. 2:45 hard out.
All right.
I got to get back to the hotel.
Yeah.
I got to pick up Brendan Burke.
Okay.
We got to go meet Luke Richardson. You know, this the real job. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The job going to the rink and remember jumping around there and
100%.
meeting the coaches and
How about long term, or the next little while here? How's it looking between now, trade deadline, after trade deadline?
I'll be with the Blues after a TNT game on a Wednesday, and then off to LA, Arizona. So we'll have an off day after San Jose in LA.
Awesome.
Panger,
So,
how has the prep changed over the years of doing that job? Has it always been kind of like this?
Being
going
back
to
to
the rink?
being
Well, just in
between
general.
the benches, yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, did you used to have more access to the coaches and players? Like now, you got to go through PR and everything. I imagine it didn't always used to be like that.
You know what? When you are like on a national partner of the NHL, it does make a big difference.
Yeah.
Like if I was coming in here for the Blues doing a Bally Sports Midwest game, it would be I'd if I knew the coach real well, send him a quick text. Hey, can I meet you outside the office? Just 2 minutes of your time.
Yeah.
One of those. Toronto's always been a little bit more guarded.
we
so,
know.
You know that. So it'd be like, hopefully I get a text. Like, today I wanted to meet Joseph Wall. He's a St. Louis guy. Everybody talks about him. I watched him play as a Bantam. I went out to a couple of tournaments, and I'd never met him before. So I did ask Steve Keogh if I could go and go and see him and be like after practice. Just everybody's going to be gone, but I just like to say hello to him. So I had that opportunity today, which was great. So I think if you reach out to the guys, and you can get what you need. Like, I think like tonight. Is it Cole Gutter? Hang on a second. Better get.
Oh, he's going into his prep.
I love it. Go into the binder.
Because otherwise, hold on. Kipper knows the book is out here now.
I love the
Oh,
book.
look at this.
Once the book
piece of
is out,
professionalism right
book is out,
here.
then-
Is that the same one we used in Vancouver in 2010?
It's pretty close, buddy. It's pretty close. It's really
A
close.
Louis
fantastic
Vuitton binder
book.
there. Wow.
Okay, he is a professional.
What's that like?
Professional broadcaster. Here.
No,
I
I can't
here's
remember.
a fourth line broadcaster.
No. It's just because I can't remember names anymore. But anyway, the kid, Cole Gutman is his name. I didn't want to screw up his name. Sorry there, Cole. But he was an original Tampa Bay pick. He went to DU, won a championship. And it looks like, it's not confirmed, but it looks like he might make his NHL debut tonight.
Oh, wow.
So I reached out to Tony Oman, their PR director. And I just said, hey, just before the game, I'd really like to snag this kid for 2 minutes and give him his time, captain of DU, national championship, and declined to sign with Tampa Bay and signed. Many teams wanted him, and he ended up signing with the Blackhawks, and he's going to get an opportunity.
Well, we're going to have you for roughly about 40 minutes here. We're thrilled to have you. Of course,
buddy.
he is Darren Pang, NHL on TNT in studio, getting ready for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Chicago Blackhawks set tonight. I think we may even take some calls, or not some calls, some messages from Twitter or YouTube. Sammy McKee, our trusted producer, will stay on top of that. But we'll just keep
attaboy, Sammy. Attaboy.
we'll
Way to
keep
go.
it-
He's tall, huh, Sammy?
Oh, he is.
He doesn't seem so tall when he's texting you, but man, I saw him on the side of the street. Like,
just a tall drink of water right there. For sure. So Chicago tonight, coming off maybe one of their worst efforts all season long here. Justin gave me he told me that you have to bet $10,000 to win 4 tonight.
It's not accurate, I don't think.
It's
But it is. You do have to bet $60 to win 10.
let me just think.
that's how much they give Chicago a chance to win tonight against the Leafs.
Even though the Leafs haven't played well against
Yes.
the lesser of the teams,
Even though. That is a good betting window if you're a betting person. But yeah,
I still wouldn't go there. With Austin returning,
Yes.
the jump that they're going to have, the lessons learned from the Columbus series.
Yeah.
But you know what I've found is, again, the same thing every single year. Honestly, throw the numbers out the window. It's this time of year.
Yeah.
Every guy on every team that's a bad team, they've heard the whispers. Everybody's getting traded. They're worried about their buddy next door, their wife's friends of his wife. They're getting traded. All of a sudden, they start playing hard.
Yeah.
Have you watched the Arizona Coyotes play lately?
No,
they
I
play
have not.
hard.
Good team.
Yeah.
They play hard.
They look like a good team.
I mean, they look like they try.
Yeah.
They defend the front of the net. They'll fight for one another.
And-
I'm like, that's really great.
We saw that Saturday night again. The Columbus
game.
Blue Jackets,
Absolutely.
back to back with the Leafs. You think they're at home now? Last change, comfort zone, up 2-0. Barely gave up 3 shots on goal in the first 17 minutes. Everything looks great, and then the switch. They outwork them. They out-hit them. They look like they're a team that wants to go to the playoffs, and the Leafs had no answer the last 40 minutes.
I mean, it's remarkable. Yeah. And we're not close to playoffs yet.
Yes.
You talk about having to dial it up for the playoffs and play a different game.
Yeah.
You know?
Kyle went at him pretty good after with the lack of effort and the competitiveness.
He's watching. He's sitting up there from 200 feet watching what it is. I mean,
Or I'm sorry, no, Sheldon.
Sheldon,
It was
yeah.
Sheldon,
Yeah,
not Kyle. Sheldon.
yeah.
Sheldon.
well, he saw it from even closer
Yes,
then.
he was really a lot closer. He was a lot closer.
A lot closer.
Yeah, a little bit more direct route for the coach to address that. And he said that in the time off with these guys, he's had some individual meetings with guys and one-on-ones. And, which I love that question, that the idea that there's another gear for guys. Like when you watch NHL hockey and the pace and all that, like you're often down by the ice and you see the energy. Guys can't really not try. But how are they able to find another gear?
Well, I've seen guys not try.
Okay.
We've played with the guys like that.
I mean, you're watching and we still have a hockey brain. You know, I mean, it's like, whoa, that's all he's got.
Yeah.
That's it. And more times than not, that gets shown on Twitter because somebody goes, whoa, what happened there?
Yeah. Can't get away with as much as you used to. So, in your following of teams this year, the St. Louis Blues have been a team that have underachieved, and you're there all the time watching that team. Berube's a guy who's great at getting effort out of guys. Typically, is anything changed there this year? Is it effort or is it just personnel?
And I think that you have to have buy-in.
Yeah.
If you don't have buy-in from your core group of players, and if you don't have one player on the team that grabs you by the scruff of the neck and says, "Let's go," then you're going to have trouble, because you do have a lot of the generation is maybe not as intense. It's not life or death, where, I was fortunate enough to be a broadcaster for the Blues when they won the Cup.
Yeah.
And watching a guy like Alexander Steen every single day taught me an awful lot about hockey. You know what? It taught me an awful lot about when one player can challenge 3 guys on the bench or his own line mate on the bench and tell him that line change was the most selfish and undisciplined line change.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like not many guys have the ability to talk about one of the most important parts of the game that nobody talks about. I don't see that in any analytics. No, by the way.
Right.
Like I don't see
point.
anything there that says poor line change. Dump puck in improperly and led to defenseman being on the ice for a minute more than he should have been on the ice. Is there something?
Yeah, how you affect your teammates who aren't even on the ice yet.
Yeah. I watch that, and then when you watch the game, and the same rules have applied for a lot of years. You're playing the clock. You're getting the puck in deep. You're defending the line. There's the gray area inside and outside the blue line. There's still prominent discussions. And you need players to drag guys back in. And if you don't, I think everybody goes, poof. Mm-hmm. It's like a cloud of dust. It just goes, poof. And there's where you get your inconsistent play.
Yeah. Doesn't hearing that make you worried about the Leafs? I know everything comes back to the Leafs on this show, but the amount of guys that just grab someone and say, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that's been consistent, and
Steen's not coming back.
He's not.
No, you guys had him once.
Yeah. Listen, you've done a terrific job covering the St. Louis Blues. You're covering the Blackhawks tonight for TNT, which brings me to the New York Rangers and the decision to go after Tarasenko instead of Pat Kane. What do you make of that?
How many minutes were between the two decisions? How many seconds were between the two decisions?
Right.
How did it come about that Doug Armstrong made that deal before Kyle Davidson did? I'd really like to know how the clock worked right there, because, I mean, it appears as if the Blues deal got slid in like an Andy Murray pre-scout night piece of paper underneath your door at the hotel room. Whoop.
You know what the key was that, though? The difference maker?
Mikkola?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there could have been a prospect, maybe there was an A-plus prospect that was wanted on the other side of Chicago. You drag your feet for 1 second, and then, and then you get an excited Tarasenko as well. I mean, with Panarin, truly being a good friend.
Yes.
And with Shesterkin, and I mean, that doesn't make it all perfect, but it is probably nice for he and his wife and his kids and his family to know that Panarin was there. And the neat thing is too is, I mean, Kane and Tarasenko, they can't just go to any team. Like, they're left-hand shots that play the right side.
Right.
You don't stick them on the left side because all your rights are filled up. Like, you don't. The Toronto Maple Leafs, as an example, if they needed a left winger, you can't.
You don't think Kane's a fit?
Vladdy doesn't play left wing, and Patrick doesn't play left wing.
It's interesting you say that, because just before that, I was going to say, am I fair to describe Tarasenko as a complicated teammate or player? Like,
I've never been in the room. I've never been in the room with him. So all I know is he turned it. You know what? He, at the most important time, I think that with the team they had in 19 and the change in coaches from Mike Yeo to Chief, and Chief had their ear, and he played hard.
Yeah.
And otherwise, they don't win. So what's happened after that? I mean, let's face it. You go back in history; it's not easy to go through the timeline and say, he has to be traded. And then his agent made at that time. He came out very bold and put down a lot of people, that are the training staff, the doctors. I mean, that's a hearty blow. And then somehow everybody puts it behind them, and they still worked hard that next year, and they still, they've still been a competitive team. This is the first year that they've fallen off. They had 109 points last year.
Yeah.
So complicated, maybe demanding, maybe sometimes if things aren't perfect. I did notice
Fickle.
On the ice
fickle's a good word.
Well, that changes or shifts, I'll call them length of shifts, could get short, and
really. That's funny, because I think a lot of guys stay out there.
They want to be longer.
Right.
Well,
but some guys
what I found, and I have found this with a few guys as well, high-end guys that think the game a different way. He's a very intelligent person. He's a very demanding person. He came from his dad was an extremely high-end coach in Russia, and so I'm, going through it. If you ask him a question, it better be a good question.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't go with the fluff. He thinks of what you're asking. So I've got to know him very, very well. And I know when I ask him a dumb question.
Yeah.
Because I can see it, or the answer that I get, I know that the question wasn't good enough for the answer. So in saying all that, he's a demanding guy, and there's been some fickle moments, I'm sure, that have led to all of this.
And I know it's a very small sample size, but you mentioned the relationship with Panarin. They're off to a good start. He will be probably on his best behavior, because that he
playing for
wants
a new deal,
a new contract.
Well, and you mentioned
didn't get that offer that maybe he was not expecting, but hoping. He scored.
They're telescopic.
He scored on his first game with the Blues. He scored on his first shot, and then he scored on his second shot. Like, I mean, the guy's got.
Part of this, implication
any great scorer,
is that he's so good and he can turn it on, and that he turned it on when Berube's there, and then going to the Rangers now, they're hoping that they get that motivated guy playing for a deal. You can see how that can work. Patrick Kane does seem a little bit like that to me right now, a guy where, he wants to be in a good situation. He's able to kind of dictate his circumstances. You mentioned family for Tarasenko and friends being there and all that. Like, how much is that a factor for Kane and Toews, do you think, and what happens? Is it just like go for another cup run, don't care if it's in Carolina or Toronto, or do you think family is a factor for these guys too?
I think where both of them go means a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I've not seen too many players speak as disappointed as Kane did.
About not playing for another team?
After that. Like, we don't hear that very often. Most guys just kind of shrug it off as if it never happened, or, but he laid it out on the line, and I was pretty impressed by that. He was disappointed.
You know what my first thought was? Is like, that's the way 99% of the league should react to, but not Pat Kane. Like, Pat Kane acted as if he's just one of any other player that's being out there. That's one of the greatest Chicago Blackhawks in history. How is he not in the loop? How does he not know exactly what's going on?
Or was he told that
he
was traded?
Yeah.
Was he told that he was traded? And then it didn't happen, so he was real high. Like,
it does feel like
I
he
never
hasn't.
thought of that.
It does feel like he
got
hasn't
any
told
inside
Chicago.
information?
I'm just saying that maybe that
really
it was
did
like
fall
you
apart
think
as
the
it
door's
happened.
open. You're there.
You think
and
there was
now
Blues say, "Well, tack him, fine, have Mikkola."
So
what happened in a space of, I don't know, 3 minutes,
Yeah.
10
So
minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes? I don't
What
know.
you're telling me is I'm off, and maybe it was the opposite. Maybe he knew exactly what was happening and then got the rug pulled
That's-
out from underneath him.
That's a sense I would get.
Oh my goodness!
I'm a sharp. I'm not that sharp of a guy,
We
Kipper.
got a scoop.
No, no
no
scoop. Well, I don't
No
think that's
Sportsnet,
I don't
the
think that's
siren
a-
goes off.
You know what? I don't think that's a scoop. I think that's
Yeah, I never
What-
thought of that.
you look at his.
What he wanted to happen.
He said,
Yeah.
that the New York. I mean, basically said the New York Rangers, the one team. I mean, he has control of where he's going. He obviously said the New York Rangers are where I'm going. And then once you say that, and you have a no trade, if you were the player, if it was you, wouldn't you expect once that's being said that now it's done? Because someone's
like it.
asking the question. They're saying, is that team the one that you want to go to?
Yeah,
And
I like the theory.
You wonder how that affects your relationship with the GM then. If you're Kane and you're
well,
like,
and
hey,
in fairness, he's a young GM, and it's a tough spot. Imagine being the GM, and this is your first big move.
yeah, you're trying to appease the player and the fan base, but also
With a
you're
no
shaping
trade,
the
that's
perception of the rest of the league about you.
And at the end of the day, Doug Armstrong found a way to sweeten the pot to
Sounds
get
like it.
a first rounder, and it appears that maybe the first rounder was never on Kane's side. There was nothing else to support a trade to New York. They just chose Tarasenko's deal over Chicago's.
But again, unless Kyle was working on a different prospect, like
Yeah.
we all don't know about what determines from one team to another team's evaluation of a prospect. Is it an A prospect? Is it a B- prospect? They go through the numbers like
Yeah.
it's fairly easy. But I mean, is Hunter Skinner the player that came over? I mean, is he? He sounds like it's a big project. I mean, he's an American Hockey League, East Coast Hockey
Yeah.
League, defenseman that did win gold for Team USA, and does shoot the puck hard. Apparently, fired at 107 miles an hour in one of the All-Star or one of the shooting skills. But but is that the guy? Maybe Kyle Davis. It was. I mean, he has to hit more of a home run even.
Yeah.
I mean, his guy won 3
Yeah.
Stanley Cups
Yeah.
and has a and has a real full no move, no
Where-
trade.
Yeah.
Vladdy doesn't have even
Where would
the same security as
Where
that.
would New York's concerns for Pat Kane physically be compared to Tarasenko?
Well, there would be no concerns on Vladdy.
Yeah.
Even though he's had this shoulder surgery, that is one of the
Well
toughest ones to
said.
say. Shoulder surgery. It's hard to say that quickly. But he's. I mean,
And
he'd
Kane-
check the boxes, and everybody knows that Patrick and the word's gotten out that maybe he's laboring a little bit. Heck, I've been laboring with a bad hip for a while. I played 17 rounds in 10 days in Ireland and Scotland the other day,
watched
or
you-
last
Good old
summer. I
head,
mean,
what'd you
I
play?
can. You know what?
I watched you walk in here today. I said
Somebody-
something's wrong.
somebody said, I mean, like I don't have his, is he, would he go to another team and have a lot of more giddy up and go?
Right. Suddenly
I
he
mean,
might find another gear.
Yeah.
All right.
So-
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and the
But
other thing
he gets
too
the
is
puck anyway, and he
he's-
controls the pace of play anyway.
and
I don't ever consider him the fastest player in the world. Maybe he was more powerful in his day to fake right, go left, and
To me, that's Mitch Marner now, where he doesn't have to be the fastest guy because he dictates the pace.
dictates and is
Yeah.
shifty.
Yeah.
Still can give you a head fake. You
Yeah.
can bite on that, nibble on it, and go the other way. Like there's still something about Patrick Kane when he gets that puck on his stick.
Poor old Chemo Tiemann and still looking for his jock on that OT Cup winner from Patty Kane.
Ooh.
Shook him good. That's a good, I see that in Marner. Just needs to happen in playoffs for him once. God,
It will.
we're dying here.
It
so
will.
who is the biggest name out there? Like if
I think
if,
Timo Meyer.
if we question Pat Kane and his willingness to maybe move or his health, how is
I mean, if you can
how-
make a,
how are-
a real
how-
hockey deal and get Timo Meyer,
how are there not a dozen teams right now
he's
screaming to get Timo Meyer?
like I've done a number of games with him at ice level and don't really know him that well. You get to know guys and their personality. Don't really know him that well. I do know that he's a pretty competitive son of a gun. He gets that puck through the neutral zone and he carries it and he
Does it-
determines the pace of play going north.
Is it? Am
He's
I
good.
often saying like a little Marian Hossa here?
Maybe. That's not a bad call. I think Marian Hossa was one of the best two-way players
Oh,
that's ever played the
boy.
game. Funny, I was just saying
Was
that
that
on
an
a show today.
evolution for him though? Was he always good two-way? I feel like
I think
Hosa's
he was
second. He always
yeah.
was. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I think he was
Yeah.
always good two-way, but you know
Okay.
what? How he didn't win a Selkie is beyond me.
It's the
beyond
winger
me.
biased. When's the
Oh,
last
my
time a
goodness.
wingers won a Selkie?
I mean, he and Steve Larmer,
Yeah.
two Hawks that got robbed for the Selkie Award for the way that they play. But
Right.
anyway, Hosa's a different animal, I think. But I think Timo Meier brings the intangibles of what a playoff team wants. Strong on pucks. Get it north. Keep control of pucks. Hold on. Make a play. Drive to the net. It's big and strong.
He shoots it. I think he's top 5 in shots or something.
On shots, and he's got a bit of a temper. And I think he would blend in. I think his personality would allow him to blend into any organization. He wouldn't be a guy that goes in there and everybody goes, okay, what's he going to say next? I think he just, finds his way in. I really am a big fan of Timo Meier, and so it would take more assets, and you have to get a deal. You have to get a deal knowing that you're going to sign this player.
Yeah.
Can you see?
Maybe it's a core player for a core player.
Can you see Carolina with the loss of Max Pacioretty?
They have
going
18
after
mil coming
him
off their cap this year
on a short window where they use him, and possibly if they don't like the extension for him, they flip him with a year remaining as an RFA.
Can they do that?
Yeah. You trade his rights to someone else to try to extend him.
Yeah, you're right. When Kyper starts talking and goes slow, I get really worried.
It is. The speed is not the concerning stuff.
I get concerned. I'm like, okay, yes. I've been down this road before.
Usually I'm eating. And you worry about me choking.
He's talking RFAs, and I put out a questions for Panger thing on Twitter, and I'm staring at the question here: how Darren Pang became Spanky. He's talking about RFAs, and I'm trying to process that at the same time.
Spanky, we haven't called you that in years.
Was that a legitimate nickname?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
100%.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Story. So this is from Jen Conway, who's a hockey historian.
Yeah. I was literally in Milwaukee, and somebody put up. There's a sign hanging at the old Mech Arena, and where the Admirals played, and it said, something about hey Spanky in our gang or something like that. And then one of the French guys, we had a couple of them there on that team, and I know Rene Badeau was one of them. There was another one too. They couldn't say. For the life of them, they couldn't say Panger. And so they kept calling me like Panky, Panker. It's just an odd way of saying it. Randy Boyd jumped on that like you read about, and so did Jimmy Ralph. And next thing you know, it was Spank. And so as an honor to my minor league hockey, I put Spankster on the back of the skull cap. And because we had a bunch of guys. Dirk Graham was Dukes. He became Dukester. I was Spankster. There was somebody else was Stir. I had a guy in the minors, Peter Horachek. We call him Chuckster. It was just one of those things, but that's how nicknames come aboard. I was somewhere the other day. It was in a rink. Somebody yells out, "Hey, Spank." Right away that I played with that guy.
Yeah.
As it turns out, I think it was Mark DePasquale with the Calgary Flames trainer. And he was in Chicago for a long time.
Nice.
And so I knew it right away. Like that's a guy that I played with or been around through those years. So.
Well, we're thrilled to have Darren Spanky Panger.
Love it.
In the studio today, gearing up the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Chicago Blackhawks for TNT. Panger, if we look down teams on the cusp of, what are you, a buyer or a seller? We probably have still a half a dozen teams. Islanders, is it?
Where are the Islanders at?
Where the Islanders? Where are?
That's that didn't go well last night.
That was awful.
What team to you might still be there but shouldn't be there? Nashville. Do you have them as sellers in about a week and a half?
It's a tough call for David Poile.
It really is.
I mean, you can't move those.
Nice defensemen.
Yes, I for whatever reason that that Matthias Ekholm's name continues to.
Oh, don't get Sammy excited on that name.
Well, because he's awesome.
He is awesome.
Right. I mean, he's just terrific. And I remember last year when they were, talking about that, and that's their team. It's not something for me. Like, I do work not for the St. Louis Blues, but I do broadcast their games, and I think I've got to be real respectful to other guys, to what they're doing. I remember being asked the question. We were in Nashville, and I said, "Well, who replaces Matthias Ekholm then?"
Yeah,
I don't know
what's the plan here.
What's the plan? Because he's all I know is when the Blues prepare for Nashville, or I'm watching a game with Nashville. I know we all talk about Roman Josi. I can't take my eyes off of Ekholm.
Yeah.
And I know he's a big lumbering guy, and maybe the wheels fall off a little bit, but he still does a lot of great things.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of his character, how big he is, how strong he is. I don't know where Nashville's at right now, but you know what I do know. I'll change it a little bit. I'll change the routing here.
Yeah.
Okay. So just like at your fine country club.
For
You know,
sure.
just like at Rosedale, where the Canadian Olympic golfer of 1903 or whatever won
That's right.
in St. Louis on the 16th hole at Glen Echo.
Knows way too much.
I played it the other day with Ray Ferrara. We were talking
Did
about
you?
our stories together. Yeah. But if I'm one of the teams, let's just go Toronto, let's go Carolina, teams that, well, Carolina's, won it a while ago, but this group hasn't won it. I'm really not knocking on the door of a team that's never been in a winning environment. So
That's interesting.
like,
yeah.
the Nashville Predators did go to the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
And they've been through many playoff games. Those, if you're talking about a player like Ekholm or a player that's had that experience, I'm going there. If you're talking about the St. Louis Blues, I am going to Ivan Barbashev. Even Noel Acciari went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final in his own building.
Yeah.
He plays hard.
Yeah,
He's
it matters.
serviceable. He can.
It matters.
It matters to him.
It
He's
matters.
competitive, and he shows it every night. Or Ryan O'Reilly's the captain and a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. I'm always very leery of taking players that have been losing environments. Those lights get awfully bright in that first round. They get brighter in the second round, and you know what the magnifying glass is like if you can even get to the second or third round. And you don't even know if a player can handle it or not.
Well, what's funny is
I want guys that have been in winning environments.
I'm sure, and they've tried in Toronto. They're like, okay, we need some veteran guys to surround our young guys and give them some support. And who's come in? It's Joe Thornton, Jason Spezza, Patrick Marleau. Go through the list. It's guys who hadn't won cups, and that's no disrespect to great pros with great careers and whatever.
But they've been through a lot of playoff games.
But that helps for sure. And Jake Muzzin is a guy who had.
Yeah.
But they haven't gone out and added Ryan O'Reilly or someone. And I know that's easier said than done. That's a
or
massive,
Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, how come we haven't got Crosby? But easier said than done.
Which I want to bring up a scenario where a lot of Maple Leaf fans are hoping they could see, and it's the complete opposite of what we're talking about. And that is the thought that a high-touted prospect in the NCAA, in this case Matthew Nyes, doing a terrific job in Minnesota, how do you take a guy that has never even seen the light of day of pro hockey and throw him in an environment where not only are Leaf fans expecting to get out of the first round, but have built up towards a team that should be able to get to a conference final or a Stanley Cup final in their minds? How realistic is that, Panger, that you could take Matthew Nyes and put him in a situation and he can thrive?
I don't know, because I've never seen him play.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
But from the mental side,
some guys are unique. Maybe they can and jumpstart you. And
does anything come to mind?
I remember thinking Ryan Holloway last year with the Oilers.
Dylan Holloway.
Dylan.
Yeah.
Right, and he ends up, only playing the one game. I think it was the final game, the fourth, and he hardly played.
Right.
When I got there, because I was there and did game 3 and 4, and it was the build up, and I was, he's an accomplished player for sure, a highly touted prospect, and it's hard for the coaches, unless they played 2 months going into it. I think it's hard for the coaches to know what that player is going to do in that situation. We're all about managing. We're managing, matchups and D zone face-offs and. I don't want to. That's not a D zone guy.
Yeah,
he's going to get the ozone.
Yeah,
he's going to get the ozone candy for a little bit, and let's see. And then neutral zone changes.
Yeah.
On the ice, off the ice, 22 seconds, get him off. So I don't know, but I've heard good things about the kid.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Oh no. I think he's got a chance to be a great pro.
Yeah, but I think
managing expectations.
I would have to think. Yes, I would have to think that going through a training camp and going through preseason games and getting your feet wet that way is way more ideal.
Yeah.
It's funny though. Some guys just jump into it and can do it.
Yeah.
You don't know. I don't know, and you don't know. But I wouldn't be. If I'm managing the team, it wouldn't be the the answer you're looking for.
Yeah.
To put on the whiteboard before to say this is where we're going to
fix the problem.
You've got a lot of good pros on this lineup. You absolutely. Every single night you see something more from Yarncroke. You see something more from Kemp. You see something more from. Even Aston Reese, I think he's done a pretty good job on that fourth line. What do you do to build to help
Yeah.
you build the bottom.
Yeah.
You got to get stronger on the bottom. Like, I watch
Definite
this Noel
necessity
Achari
here.
every night.
Yeah.
And that's what he plays. He plays the bottom part. He wins 56% of his faceoffs. He's on the penalty kill. He blocks shots and he hits.
Sounds
Pretty good
nice.
combination.
Like,
That's all Kipper wants.
I mean,
Yeah.
Bring us a guy who does that.
you know that. I mean, that's why you were in the lineup as often as you were winning that
And
Stanley Cup.
occasionally up in the press box.
Well, yeah, but then there was a little.
but I kept everybody honest.
That's right. You need a change.
Right.
You need guys. You need character. You need,
And
like
if you're not going to be able to do it,
winning's hard.
I'll jump in.
Winning's hard.
Winning's
With 32
hard.
teams.
Winning's
I
hard.
think we're going to
should-
see that. Sorry, go ahead.
We should get questions before
Yeah,
we
let's
lose,
do it. You got a few,
Panger.
Sammy?
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left
Oh,
with Panger.
okay.
So
We
let's,
can't-
can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Yeah, we got you,
Can
Sammy.
Panger hear me? He doesn't have a headset on.
Oh, sure. I'll throw these on.
Yeah.
It might, like my hair might get messed up. So.
I was going to make the hair joke, but you did.
Yeah.
Can you hear me
we're
okay?
good there. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, beautiful.
You got nice hair. What
Thank you,
happened
man.
there? You're welcome. bud.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No,
It just keeps growing. I don't know what to tell you.
No gel today.
It's hard to control this thing. All right. It's from a frequent YouTuber on our list. I love these kind of questions. What arena does Panger enjoy visiting the most, and which has the best food?
Ooh.
Love that kind of question.
I like visiting the Montreal.
Montreal?
Yeah.
LaBelle Center.
Chien Show?
Yeah, I love going to Montreal. Love having the Shea Show. Just mustard on it.
Just mustard.
That's
oh,
all.
yeah, that's classic right there.
Yeah, I'm. There's something about the way the seats are, the way they're angled. So, and I think the first time we played in the Montreal Forum, I literally walked around the concourse. I grew up in Ottawa. I was a Montreal Canadiens fan growing up, and I walked around that concourse, and then I went down to the locker room and I threw up.
Did
So
you
I was-
honestly?
I was so nervous and so excited and so it was unbelievable feeling. Like
yeah.
I
How'd you
could-
play?
Lost 3-0.
Okay.
Patrick Waugh and no one told me I was the second star, and they were waiting for me to go out, and I would have gone out because it was a Montreal Forum. And
Come on.
Oh, for
all my
sure.
buddies were there. And they were
Yes.
like,
Oh,
"Why didn't-"
devastating.
I said, "Why didn't you go?" They said, "Why didn't you go out? You were named the second star." And I was like, "Nobody told me."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Who's the first star?" And
They
said,
told you.
They said Patrick Waugh. I'm like, "Oh,
They told you it was just in French.
yeah."
That was the
Le
problem.
deuxième étoile, the second star.
All right. What else we got here? Okay. Best prank pulled on one of his teammates from Mackles on YouTube.
All right. I was a notorious shoe checker.
Ah, yes.
I found that I would have gone into the Hall of Fame as a shoe checker at dinner. Kipper.
Yeah.
Being 5'4.5", 135 pounds, I could scoot under those tables like you read about. And maybe my award-winning one. Hopefully he's catching this right now. We had the same coach together. Not together, but at separate times. Mike Keenan.
Yes.
We were in the playoffs in St. Louis. We were all
Who got him?
and we were all every dinner we had was on the water. We were rowing we were all rowing the same oars or
Heave
whatever. And we were all. So we ate on the water in Detroit was the first round, and somehow we set it up that we were on the water. The second round was in St. Louis. We were on the water, and in St. Louis I scooted around. I must have gone through 10 tables and bang, right on his patent leather, beautiful shoes, and then I slid back to my table. And if you don't know what the shoe check is, I mean, the shoe checker does not say anything. The shoe checker goes in there. He's got a little, let's say, mayo or ketchup, and he's got a little wee container. And when he goes in, he just plunks it on the end of the shoe, tries to get 2 shoes. Try not to get the socks and everything like that, but
No
get the
suede shoes.
And then you got to slide all the way out, and then you got to get to your table, and then the guys notice what you've done, and then somebody goes, like this. They go with their right.
Little tap.
A little tap on their glass. Everybody's like, shoe check. And you step up and
Everybody
you look
gets
down
up.
and
Not
everybody's.
me, not me,
And
not
it was
me.
like, oh, and I remember seeing the look on Mike's face was priceless. And I go,
Oh,
yeah.
Joey Kosher was the worst.
Oh, he would have put horse hay and manure,
Sour cream.
probably manure from his farm.
breakfast, jam, peanut butter.
Seen that end in fights before.
And they're like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Oh, hey,
To Joey
Joey.
Kosar,
You
yeah.
go ahead.
You can have their shoes,
I'm
Joe.
going to pretend I didn't see you.
I play golf with Joey probably 4 times a week in the summertime at Duck Lake in Michigan.
Oh, man.
And another Ranger, Wayne Presley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great group.
Yeah, we do. No shoe checking.
Last one quickly before we let you go, Panger. This is from John Mitchell on YouTube. What does Panger think about the nets being accidentally on purpose being knocked off the pegs? Is it a problem? Does the league have to look into it?
Yeah, it's a problem if the same person does it over and over and over again. Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody knocks off the nets. I know when Matt Murray did
led the league, I think, in it. I think he had 5 or 6.
And
it's a lot.
And they came at times when the puck was in the defensive zone for an extended period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, those are just, it's very simple. That's the first time I think you've got to give a warning, like anything else. They do that with the mask. People don't understand that. Usually, if the goaltender gets hit in the face and his strap comes off and he's worried about his vision because of the bars, he pulls it off because he's worried about, I can't see the puck coming.
Right.
Or if I move quickly, it's going to fall off. But usually the referee, and I saw it with Jordan Binnington, and he got called the second time because he was warned the first time. And so I think for a net coming off its moorings, yes, could they dig them a little deeper? Yes, could they have the pegs a little bit higher? I believe they should make a change just a little bit higher. I'm not talking about old school Darren Pang number 21 team league era.
But they're like golf shoe spikes right now.
They are.
It's not enough.
And some arenas don't do it as well as other arenas.
Yeah.
But I watched a lot of big, heavy goaltenders go side to side and push off, and the net somehow doesn't fall off.
Well,
but it did with Matt, and he got it hasn't since. So I think he got them. The message was quite clear about how that was done and when that was done in the time of the game.
I'm not going to date you if I say that I believe that you had the newer pegs, right? They got rid of the big long ones.
I was in the long ones.
Oh, you were in the long ones.
Those things didn't come off for anything, huh?
No, not. I couldn't even get it off the crossbar. I'm like, yeah, no chance. Not like Ken Dryden, on his stick. I was like,
but not that I'm like for the goalie union because I don't give a crap about them. But
yeah,
there is an inconsistency from rink to rink on how quick maybe these things come off a little easier or a little tougher, whatever town you're in.
Yep, for sure. I think that's probably a skill, in the hockey ops department or the guys that are, that work with the ice. But, they probably had a bad day. Maybe they had a bad day.
It happens. I did want to ask you, I saw a picture the other day of a goaltender who played for the Pittsburgh Penguins, who I believe was 5'4".
No, he's taller than that.
Was he?
That was Roberto Romano.
I saw a picture and I was like, no.
That was a low crouch, huh?
I mean, low
like
crouch
that was really low.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he wasn't that small.
I played against him, so he was 5. He was like 5'6".
Okay.
Yeah, he was thicker than me though. Like he's a as a Babcock used to. He's got big lower half.
Big lower half. He's good base.
Yeah.
All right,
but
Panger.
Roberto Romano, he got really down low there. He looked really little.
Yeah, he did in the picture I saw.
That's how big I look. See that?
Yeah.
One more
Kipper.
before we let you go.
Sure.
And this, I'm lumping in Leaf fans.
And thanks for the car that you gave me as a gift. It's got the bow on. It was unbelievable.
The car service.
I can't believe
Hey,
that.
grab any Roger executive car you want here. I got no problem with that. I'm going to lump in Leaf fans and Tampa Bay fans in this question. Does any of them have a chance against the Boston Bruins?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, that was quick.
Yeah. No, for me, no question about it.
Really?
Yep.
Why?
Linus Ullmark hasn't been there before.
Okay.
We talked about the bright lights.
Toronto, it's the same situation, although Matt Murray, he has been there before. Not in an entire, four rounds of his Stanley Cups, but that's what I think. And I think too, Kipper, like the pressure's on, whether they like it or not. It was on the 1977 Montreal Canadiens. It was on the 1996 Detroit Red Wings, and they lost in the conference final to Colorado. And I'm talking about the most points. I'm talking about now the magnifying glass going
Tampa Bay
on the
versus
record.
Columbus. What?
4 games straight.
4 games straight.
So anyway, that's why I would say that. I think I really like Boston a lot. Hampus Lindholm, that addition was phenomenal. I think they've got some good shutdown guys. I think Forbert doesn't probably get enough credit on that back end, and McAvoy's probably not even played his best hockey because of the start out of the gate. So I know I'm a big fan of the way they play and their coach and their team, but I'm just saying that once you get to that point, no guarantees.
You hear
pal.
that, Leafs fans?
No guarantees, big guy.
Hey, listen, we had like 1,400 people on YouTube just to watch you.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm calling them all out to give you a thumbs up.
Oh, thank you.
Do you know what that is?
That's that.
That's it, baby.
I'm
right
just,
there for Darren
I learned
Pang.
this new word today because from now to the time I get to the game, I'm just going to be mossing.
That's a thing?
Chilling.
Okay.
I
all
learned
right.
that word today. So I'm mossing. I'm 58 years old. I'm almost 59. Friday, I'll be 59 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Everybody okay at TNT with Talk It in Vancouver now? Is the show
Yeah,
being canceled?
No, I replaced him on that chair last week in the studio. Only bald guys need apply, and so I was there then. But before you go into the studio and sit down, they've got a big picture of Talk. You've got to look at it, and you've got to give him a wave.
Is that
So,
it?
yeah, that's it. So you got to give him a wave, and anyway, so we're surviving. But he was a big part of it. You know that, and everybody loves Talk, and he gives a lot of credibility wherever he is. So. Happy for him, but disappointed that he's not with us.
Well, we still love the show. Love
Thanks,
you. The crew did a great job, and we so appreciate having you here, pal.
Thanks, Kipper. I
Been
appreciate
awesome.
that.
Thanks for taking
Darren
the time.
Pang,
Appreciate it.
TNT. Big call tonight. Chicago versus Toronto. We're going to take a quick break, and we're coming back with more Real Kyper and Bourne.
Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Toronto Maple Leafs getting set tonight to face the Chicago Blackhawks. One of those games, Justin, where you think it's an easy 2 points. It's not. This has been an ongoing thing for the Toronto Maple Leafs that, for whatever reason, we've heard from Sheldon over the last few months. We heard from Kyle, hasn't spoke all but maybe once or twice this season. But one thing that stood out for me when he just spoke a week ago was, I want to see how this team responds in games that we should be favored to win.
You know, I think the problem, Kyper, is that everyone thinks they're auditioning for the Maple Leafs. So right now you got Gavrikov and Jenner trying to get traded for. You know, tonight, do you think Kane and Toews want to impress the Leafs? Do you think they care?
I don't know. That's a really, really good question. Maybe we'll throw it
it's a
to
reach
Mark
and a half,
Lazarus,
I know.
senior hockey writer, The Athletic, based in Chicago, covers the Chicago Blackhawks. Is going to join us now. Why don't you, JB, you throw that question to Mark. Hey, Mark, thanks for joining us. Hi,
Laz. How are you?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
So JB just threw it to me, and of course, I'm going to deflect it right to you. Is this an audition for Pat Kane to maybe pick the Leafs over now the New York Rangers?
I'll throw it right back to you. Can the Leafs make it work? Can they accommodate him? It sounds like a great fantasy thing to have Patrick Kane playing alongside Austin Matthews, arguably the two greatest American players ever playing in Toronto. That's kind of hilarious. And it's a dream scenario. They like each other. They want to play with each other. I don't know if Toronto can make it work though financially.
Yeah, it would take a little bit of jumping through some hoops and retained and third parties and all sorts of stuff. What are you going to say, Kip?
I was just going to say, though, guys, isn't this really what Kyle Davidson, the young general manager for the Chicago Blackhawks, isn't this what he should have been figuring out the last few months on how he could make this work? Did you get any sense at all, Mark, that he was in discussions with the New York Rangers looking for ways to make this work?
Not really, because Patrick Kane hasn't told them yet whether he'll waive his no movement clause. And until he really gives them the green light, there's not. I think he's honestly torn. He and Toews, both of them, neither of them really want to leave. They're lifelong Blackhawks, but at the same time, they don't really want to stay.
Yeah,
they're not dumb guys. They know that they make $10.5 million, and that's not an easy thing to go 24 hours to your general manager. Say, okay, I'm ready to go now. Trade me. I mean, I'm baffled by, I don't know, the lack of communication between player, agent, general manager.
Well, I think part of it is I don't think they were expecting Tarasenko and Horvat to move, a full month out before the deadline. That's not typically how it goes in the NHL. So I think they thought they had more time. And now that the Tarasenko trade happens and Kane's number one potential choice is off the board, all of a sudden there's some urgency here now. Kane said just yesterday, he said that, that he's been talking with Davidson, but they haven't had a formal sit down to really hash this out. And I think, honestly, it comes down to the player has all the control here, right? Patrick Kane has total control. He could Claude Giroux this thing where he just says, I'm going to this one team or I'm not going anywhere. So he has all that power. And I really, honestly, genuinely think that Patrick Kane isn't sure what he wants to do. Because remember, he could just stay and then go play the market in the summer. But he also doesn't want to screw over the Blackhawks. He said that the other day. He said, I want to do what's right for both sides.
Yeah.
So he's in an awkward position. He wants to do right by the Blackhawks, but he also kind of doesn't want to be in this miserable slog of a rebuild.
Well, the worst case scenario, I think, is the Tavares example where you go, I don't know, maybe don't trade me, and then the fans are upset when it's all over. Maybe their legacy, well, I shouldn't say maybe, their legacy is different than Tavares in that they won cups and they're heroes there, and they maybe have a little bit more luxury there to. Do you get the sense that fans would be upset if they chose to play out the season?
It's interesting because, at the beginning of the year, it felt so inconceivable that either of them could leave. That would be so seismic when it happened. But it's been dragging on so long now at this point that people are just go already. And it's not that they don't like Patrick Kane or they don't want him to stay, but this will he or won't he thing it's getting. I think it's getting old for everybody. It's probably old for Patrick Kane himself. Like, at some point you have to make a decision, and that this has been talked about. It feels like such an inevitability now that I don't think anyone's going to begrudge him. Patrick Kane is pretty unimpeachable in Chicago among the fan base. He is the greatest Blackhawk that ever lived, probably, and it's he gets a long leash for a good reason. But at the same time, you're talking about potentially a first-round pick coming back. The Hawks need as many of those as they can get. So, the fans want to get something out of him. They don't want him to leave on his own. But it's not like they're going to turn on him. If he's still here on March 4th, they're not going to boo him. They're going to be glad they get, X amount of home games left to cheer him on, and they'll get a proper chance to say farewell. It's not the end of the world if he doesn't go. The Hawks have 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years, including what's probably going to be a top 5 one this year. They're not hurting in that regard. So,
Right.
The fans are not going to turn on Patrick Kane over this.
We're talking to Mark Lazarus, senior writer, The Athletic, covering the Chicago Blackhawks. We are talking Kane and Toews. As far as health is concerned, we did hear a comment from Pat Kane downplaying that it's not as bad as it's being made out to be. What have you seen over this season in terms of Pat Kane's health? Could it be a factor in some teams maybe not being as aggressive as we'd think otherwise?
Oh, I think it's 100% a factor. I think that's why the Rangers were quick to get Tarasenko over him. I think it matters a lot. I don't know if it's actually a big deal or not, but the fear of it, the concern over it, certainly is affecting the trade market right now. Here's the thing. Kane's been dealing with this for a couple of years now, going back to the COVID season. He had 92 points last year. So, he is still capable of scoring with or without the nagging hip injury. This year, look who he's playing with. He's the Blackhawks' number 1 center the last 2 weeks has been Jason Dickinson, a nice, good, solid player, but he's not Patrick Kane's level. Like, I don't know what you expect from him, how he's supposed to produce with the guys he's playing with. It's just not a realistic thing when he's got, Max Domi, Andreas Athanasiou, and these are the best guys he's got to play with. So there are days where it looks like Patrick Kane is hurting. I'm not going to lie. There are days where it looks like there's a problem there, but there's also days where he looks like himself. So I think this is something he's dealing with. He's saying that it's not as big a deal as people think, that it feels pretty good these days, actually. But it's there. It's an issue. And he's 34 years old. Is it going to require surgery at some point? We don't know that. Yeah. So it's certainly a concern in other teams' mind when they're talking about giving up a first-round pick in a draft that everybody wants a first-round pick in.
Laz, over the course of their careers of Kane and Toews, they've been lumped in, as I just did, Kane and Toews, or Toews and Kane, or however you want to phrase it, contracts, you name it. Yet leading up to this trade deadline, it feels like we're all talking about Patrick Kane all the time. Is that because of the disparity in their ability at this point in their careers, or is it just because it's less likely that Toews wants to go?
I think it's a little of both. Jonathan Toews is not what he was in 2013, 2014, when he was pretty much the second best player in the world behind Sidney Crosby. Yeah, he's not been the same since he came back from his year off for when he had a COVID-related illness. But he's got 14 goals this year. He leads the league at faceoff percentage. He's still a pretty good player, and he'd be a dynamite third-line center on a team like Colorado, something like that. I get the sense that Toews is leaning towards staying. He just seems more. Kane is talking so openly about, I was thinking about the Rangers. Toews, it's always more vague. And I don't think being the captain of the Chicago Blackhawks means an awful lot to Jonathan Toews. And I'm not convinced that he wants to go and just be some guy on some other team's playoff run.
Would he resign there?
Both of them do. It's possible. I don't know if the Blackhawks want either of them to resign. It seems like Kyle Davidson's pretty adamant about moving on completely from the Cup era. But Jonathan Toews, he's a good captain, obviously. He's great with young players. He's been a really positive influence on the team this year. You could sign him for 2 years at like a $3 million cap hit. Why wouldn't you do that? I think it's a no-brainer. If he wants to come back, if he says he wants to come back, Kyle Davidson's not going to be allowed to let him walk. The fans wouldn't stand for it.
Right.
Laz, are we forgetting there's other players on the Chicago Blackhawks in terms of not having that star power, but certainly could be some assets for Davidson to move? And if so, who stands out for you?
Everyone must go. It is a going out of business sale.
Seth Jones?
Who is Sam Lafferty?
There is no untouchable on this roster. If you could trade Alex DeBrincat and Kirby Dach, then there is no, and Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, there are no untouchables. So, they signed Max Domi and Andreas Athanasiou in order to flip them. That was the whole point. So they're certainly available to a team that wants to. Max Domi's been very good this year. so he's an option. Jake McCabe has 2 years left on his contract. The Blackhawks aren't eager to trade him. They like him. He's been their best defenseman this year. But if someone comes and offers a big deal because they can retain salary, you could have Jake McCabe for 2 years at $2 million a year for the next 2 years. That might be worth a first rounder. Kyle Davidson will make that trade. Seth Jones, I don't see how you can move that contract. He's in the first year of an 8-year, $76 million deal. He's got a full no movement clause, and I don't think the Hawks want to retain, $4.75 million for 7 more years. That's a lot of dead money. That doesn't seem realistic. I think Seth Jones is here to stay, but literally everybody else. Connor Murphy, he could be had. Literally anybody on this roster. If Alex Stalock were healthy right now, he was playing great. He would have been an interesting piece for a contender that needs some, depth at goaltending. There is nobody on this roster that can't be had.
So what if you're on the Blackhawks and you're playing the rest of the season out here, is everyone kind of just playing for their own careers to show, what they can do, that they want to be a part of it? Do we have any bones of the next Blackhawks era in place?
Yeah, but they're all in like juniors and in the minor leagues right now.
Gotcha.
It's Lucas Reichel in Rockford. It's Kevin Korchinski out in Seattle. I mean, you look at this roster right now, and there are maybe 2 guys that'll still be here at the other side of it. It's going to be Seth Jones and maybe Philip Kurashev, who's a nice piece, and he's 23 years old. Everybody else, I would be surprised if they're still here 4 or 5 years from now when, this team is thinking it's going to be good again. Like, it's just this is a placeholder team. All their best prospects are either in juniors or they kept them in Rockford because they didn't want to expose them to this much losing early in their career. They rushed Kirby Doc. It didn't work out. They rushed Adam Boquist. It didn't work out. They are being hyper patient. Lucas Reichel is absolutely NHL ready. He was the number 1 pick a few years ago. He came up. He looks great. He is NHL ready. They don't want him here. He might come up after the trade deadline.
Help them win.
But that's the problem. They don't want to win. That's part of it. They're trying to lose here. This is a tank season. This is the most overt tank season we've seen since the McDavid year.
Which leads me to my next question.
How do they beat the Leafs
and
tonight?
Sammy's going to like this one. So with a generational talent like Connor Bedard out there, has Peter Mrazek been everything that they had hoped for?
Oh, poor Peter.
He's been goaltending. It really has not been the Blackhawks' issue this year. Mrazek's had some really nice games. They got him because he's a veteran who could just man the net, and it doesn't matter if he's good or not. Everybody understands that. But I know that he's not the most popular man in Toronto, but he's been perfectly adequate for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, he's a
hasn't
likable
screwed
guy.
up their lottery pick.
So if they were
Alex
to get
Stalock
Bedard,
was messing things up. Alex Stalock was one of the best goalies in the league when he was healthy.
yeah, that's not helping. The Bedard thing's fascinating. We've talked about, a lot of people talk about where they would like to see Bedard go in the league. Do you think the league would like to see him back in Chicago and, kind of like a Pittsburgh thing, you go to Lemieux to Crosby and hand the torch to Bedard? Or is it better for the league to see this kid go to Columbus or Arizona or somewhere dying for a star?
No, I think the league would love for him to be in Chicago. No hockey fan outside of Chicago wants to see Connor Bedard in Chicago, but the league desperately wants. I mean, Chicago is, it's a moneymaker for the league. And even in this terrible season, they're still selling 19,000 tickets a game. It's important to the league that Chicago be good. So I think that the league, if they're going to free some ping pong balls, they're going to have a Blackhawks logo on them. My big conspiracy theory is that the Coyotes are locked into the number 4 pick because Mitchkov would be coming over just when their new arena opens. So that's my conspiracy theory, is that they're going to engineer Mitchkov to Arizona.
I love it.
So let me get this straight. If we would have said maybe 3 years ago that there would be this type of fire sale and you'd be watching your franchise faces almost pushed out the door, would you have envisioned 19,000 people still coming to games?
It's been kind of the Blackhawks were braced for it to be so much worse than this. And coming into the year, they needed about 14,000 fans a game for this not to be a financial disaster for them. It's been way better than anyone could have thought. Like, people, like to call the Blackhawks fans bandwagon fans because a lot of them came aboard in the late 2000s when Kane and Toews were just coming through. They're not bandwagon fans. They're hardcore fans that are, deep into the prospect pools now. Like, this is a durable, hardy fan base that, Bill Wirtz did his best to destroy the Blackhawks fan base. And for about 10, 15 years there, it was pretty bleak. But if you're still here after the last 2 years and the last 6 years on the ice, then you're clearly here to stay.
Well, that's that. First of all, that's great news for such a strong original six market. But I mean, that really surprises me because I do remember it in the early 2000s when it got really ugly. But they're okay for
part
this.
of it, you have to realize, like, during the Cup years, it was so expensive to get in the building that for the last couple of years, you're getting new fans in the building that can afford it now because it's you can get a $15 ticket on the secondary market. So you're reaching people who just want to experience a Blackhawks game that couldn't for so long.
You know,
I
Leaf
don't know
fans.
how long that'll last for, but it's working.
You know, Leaf fans are pissed off to hear you say
You
that.
can't get a cup of coffee for $15 at a Leafs game.
Well, you want to
Where's our $15 ticket?
If you lose for the next 6 years, you might too have $15 tickets.
How has it been, Laz, the evolution? Because you've been there for the climb and the descent of greatness and a great run of, I don't know how many years you'd call it, 8, 9, 10 years. How has it been? What's the difference in covering the team as you go back into one of these sort of, I don't know, valleys?
Well, my first year was the lockout season when they won the Cup in 2013. So I joined the beat, and they immediately went 21-0-3 and then won the Cup. So
okay.
I didn't get to see the climb. I got there at the peak of the mountain. Conference final in 2014, and then another Cup in 15. It's been interesting. It's been a long, slow, but precipitous decline. And it's kind of sad to see where it's at. I mean, this team was so good and just absolutely owned the city and owned the league. And it's the fact that they're just now bottoming out, like they treaded water for so long the last 4 or 5 years that this should have happened years ago, right? You could have rebuilt this and kept Kane and Toews and had them during that peak. But instead, you kind of wasted their prime years, and now you're doing this too late.
Well, I was going to ask you.
Shame that.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to ask, should they have pulled the plug earlier on these guys and just moved on from the Cup years, or they hung on for a while here and it's looking ugly?
Yeah, that's absolutely. But it's easy to say that in hindsight, right? But I mean, the fact is, they won 3 Stanley Cups. You can't complain about that, right? You can't.
Right.
But the fact is, their window should have been so much. They could have been like Boston, where they're just contenders every single year, except they would have had multiple cups to it too. I mean, you could have had a 4th cup. You could have, who knows? Or at the very least, you could have been great still. And they just mismanaged the roster really badly in those last few years of Stan Bowman's tenure. The Jeremy Colliton era did not go well. And then, they tried to rebuild in the COVID season, and then they short-circuited, and they mortgaged the future for Seth Jones, and they just put themselves in such a bad position now that Kyle Davidson has a lot of digging to do before he can start climbing back out.
Just one final one for me. Mark you just mentioned him, Kyle Davidson, much like Jerry Colligan, a young guy, not much experience. How much is this Kane Toews situation going to matter to him in the future in terms of maybe setting him up long term here?
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, right? He's done good work so far. He's turned some lemons into lemonade with turning Alex Nylander into Sam Lafferty, turning Riley Stillman into Dickinson, who's been really good. He's shown a knack for making savvy, smart moves. He traded Brandon Hagel, but he got Taylor Radish, who's like a 15-goal scorer already, and 2 first-round picks out of it. So if he can maximize his value on Kane and potentially Toews and some of these other guys, the Hawks are set up pretty well. They've got Kevin Korchinski. They've got Frank Nazar. They've got Lucas Reichel, Alex Vlasic. They have young guys ready to come up, and they've got all these first and second round picks in the next couple of years. In theory, they're in good shape. It's just going to take a long time to get there.
Hey, Mark, really appreciate your work for us, man, covering the Chicago Blackhawks as they get set to play the Toronto Maple Leafs. Thanks for doing this, Mark.
You got it. Anytime.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Mark Lazarus from The Athletic, covering the Chicago Blackhawks.
Do you think if they got Bedard, they would trade some of those assets and try to get better sooner? Or do you think they just let these young guys come along? Yeah, you don't rush it.
No. Listen, at the end of the day, it's Crosby, Mario, Eric Lindros. You don't know until you know. You hope that they can come in and be dominant, and some of them have coming in and scoring 60, 70 points, and they're as an 18-year-old. But I don't think it would cause the Chicago Blackhawks to all of a sudden stick their foot on the pedal.
Right.
Now, interesting, when we talked about where the vision of the league would be, or TNT or ESPN, like they don't want him to go to Arizona. They don't. They want.
Some people think they do.
No, absolutely not. They want him. Look at all the outdoor games.
Oh, I
Look
know.
at every.
Chicago is
It's Chicago. It's Boston. It's New York.
Yeah.
Those are the numbers.
The Caps, the
That's where the
Penguins.
Stars.
Yeah.
It's Chicago. It's Boston, and it's New York. It's Pittsburgh because of Sid.
Right. It's not because of Pittsburgh.
But you attack those numbers in America with Stars. That's what U.S. television wants.
Mm-hmm. Give me Connor Bedard on the Blackhawks. The more we talk about this, the more I'm certain it's going to accidentally happen.
I'm still Team CBJ.
Yeah, like I want that for like fairness
For Portsline.
and yeah, for poor Portsline. But like the strength of the NHL is important too, and Chicago and Philly's still pretty appealing.
Sid scored 102 points in his year when he was 18 years old.
Now, is that good?
Yes.
102.
When he's 18.
18.
I know it's dumb. He played on Lemieux's team. They literally handed him the
I'm kind
torch.
of nervous for him next year that if he doesn't score 90 or 100 points wherever he is, that somehow that'll
Bedard?
that'll feel like he may be letting people down.
Do you have any idea what Sid has this year for points?
I want to say 68.
Close. He's 10th in NHL scoring, right? On nipping on the heels of Jack Hughes with 65 in 53 games.
All right. Not
I
bad.
mean,
Not bad.
pouring pucks in the net still.
Yes.
He's got 25 snipes. Going to finish the year with 35. 35 and 90 some points or something. No big deal.
He is, he's got 541 goals in his career, 933 assists. So he'll probably be up over 600 goals by the end of, by it's all said and done. Over 1,000 assists by the time it's all said and done.
Which I think,
talking about living up to the hype.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, LeBron's been getting all that love lately. Crosby deserves a lot of love for coming in with that sort of,
Sid isn't a corny egomaniac, so there's a big difference.
love LeBron.
I love LeBron too, but like,
No, he's those things. He's corny and an egomaniac.
Speaking of American television, you catch a story about the Bally Regional Sports.
Yeah, I was going to ask Panger about that, but I didn't want to didn't know if that was too close to the. I don't know.
Basically, they own about 42 pro sports regional stations or coverage, and they had a balloon payment of about $140 million interest payment and didn't make it.
Yeah,
I'm like, sometimes I forget to pay the Visa.
140 schmil. You might
I get
that
nervous.
one might get your attention.
I get nervous when I miss the Visa bill.
Yeah.
Like, how do you miss that balloon payment?
Well, I did read about that. I guess
human error, like the Coyotes last year.
Human error.
When they missed the payment on their rink.
That's
and
right.
Like, oh, human error.
Yeah.
That was human error.
Didn't go through bad Wi-Fi connection when I tried to make the payment. But I saw that they bought all those regional rights at once for like $10.6 billion by borrowing $8.6 billion, which seems like a large
I'll worry about
chunk.
that later.
So that was pure interest that they owed on the $8.6 billion that they borrowed. So I'm no business guy.
I would borrow 20 from you guys for lunch. Like,
I don't think it'll affect anybody watching this season, but I think next year could change.
Well, it hurts franchises who are expecting payments. It sounded like, my understanding is that the teams get some payments from the network for that, and the Coyotes can't go without too many payments that are coming in or haven't been able to in the past anyway.
All right, we're going to tee up Toronto and Chicago. Sammy, what do we want to do? We want to take a quick break here?
You want to take a break?
I think we break and then we come in and just hit the Leafs to the buzzer.
And we got plenty of Kypers Clippers to get to.
Plus, I'm freezing and I need to warm it up.
Well, that's reason enough to go to break. Okay, we'll take this breather to get Justin's temperature.
Get some
all
chamomile
settled
and a blanket.
In the meantime, give us a thumbs up for Darren Pang if you haven't already. Give us a rating and review. We'd love to hear from you. And
almost 1,300 watching today on YouTube.
Awesome.
I don't know what the hell got into
Love
people.
hearing that.
Bored? What's going on?
It's only getting better. Trade deadline closing in on the Stanley Cup playoffs yet again. Love this time
Leafs
of
Hawks.
year. All right, we're back after these words. Real Kyper and Bourne.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
All right, plenty to still get through when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs playing the Chicago Blackhawks. Blackhawks are 0-7-1 in the second half of back-to-backs. If the Leafs drop this one, I think the show's canceled.
Buddy, this is the exact one they dropped.
We might have 2,000 viewers tomorrow. The Leafs is this one.
What was the one show we had? We had 2,000.
It was after they lost to Anaheim.
Oh yeah, they're like
Leafs Talk
2
had
and
like
4 at the time.
25,000 views that night.
Yeah. People love Crisis.
I've played here. I grew up here. I'll never understand that.
It's the passion. It's the true passion that unites
listeners
us.
or viewers when they stink than when they do well.
Well, but what's there to say when they do well? Like, that was pretty good, eh?
Well, no. So
there's nothing to break down. They did it right.
Not to get too inside baseball here, but I think a underachieving team that's supposed to be good and is playing poorly is the perfect sports talk radio team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like the expectations are high, you're under expectations, and people want to know why, and they want blood because they're pissed off because they're under the expectations, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at Vancouver. Vancouver this year, like all their podcasts, everybody's frothing at the mouth. All they care about is getting more content.
And even the swinging expectations, if they're low and you're hot, then people like it. But when you're right in line with the expectations, they're like,
that year, like Gord Stellick did Leafs postgame every game after the 2015 season where they were just like trying to be bad with Babcock. Like, what the hell did they talk about?
I don't know.
Oh my God. Anyways.
William Nylander still.
Yeah.
All right, we've heard different versions of Sheldon Keefe since the loss against Columbus Saturday night. We got a very short Sheldon Keefe on Monday. Tuesday, he was a little longer.
Yeah.
Where do we go with Sheldon today? Let's find out on what he expects tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, I mean, anytime you lay an egg, you want to come back and have a good effort. But really our focus is more like Friday, less like Saturday. We did a good job on Friday on the road, and it's disappointing to come back and have 2 periods like we did to let the game get away on us here after taking control of the game in the first period. But yeah, I mean, Friday's recipe was pretty good, and we're gonna look to get back to that.
Still not happy with Saturday, huh?
No.
Hasn't moved on.
I'm really happy how pissed off he still is about that, to be honest with you.
But do we need to listen to more clips before I share your theory from pre-show? Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got different ones, but since we are on the topic of Sheldon Keefe and how hard or soft he was on the guys this week, I think this one kind of says it all because this one came from our Luke Fox, didn't it?
Yeah. All the good questions do.
All the tough questions
crushes it at morning
come from Luke Fox, and he talked to Keith on basically what kind of week it's been for him getting the guys ready.
There's no question that they know. It allows you to, both in the fact that there's a little bit of a break in the schedule here, since we played that game, allows that in itself allows some time for reflection, time for discussions and meetings with individuals and with the team collectively. But our guys know, they felt it the other night too. They weren't happy with it, but we'd like to be, rather than being unhappy after the fact, we want to be able to address and fix things while they're happening. That's what good teams do. And we weren't able to do that the other night. Obviously, we got a big power play goal to start the third period, and you thought, okay, we'll be okay here now, and then wasn't enough from there. But just in terms of our individual process, habits, details, all those types of things, when that slips, it's a good chance to, to get the team get refocused and expect better tonight.
All right, there you have it. I mean, I'm not in the room there. I've not spoken to anybody directly about what kind of week it's been, but those kind of weeks can go two ways for players. Mm-hmm. And we just listened to Darren Pang. He's been around a long time. Didn't really give too much thought into a Saturday night loss to Columbus. Other than that, it's still off the All-Star break, and maybe we're still at the tail end of the dog days of winter, and they kind of lost their focus? Or was it one of those weeks building up to tonight, JB, where Sheldon's all over them, meetings, video?
That's the one.
And you know, some players are like, oh my God, would this guy just shut
Yeah,
up
we've had
already?
8 meetings since the last game.
Enough. Is there a danger of that happening?
Yeah, there is, but I don't think you're in a position to care if you're the coaching staff. It's like, this has to get cleaned up. We're now down to, 27 games? I am interested in one of the things he said about individual meetings. We've been able to have some individual meetings throughout the year. You play a game, you travel, you're on the road. Like, you'll notice habits of a player slip, and you don't have time to sit down with them and go through the video. You're on to the next place and on to the next team meeting. And, this will have been a real time for them to pull guys aside and say, hey, Justin Hall, you were huge for us when everyone was out. But here's what's happened the last 5 games, and here's why you're sitting down. Wayne, here's what I'm curious to know. Who do you think that they would be talking to? Like, if you have individual meetings with guys,
oh my God,
I don't even know.
You mentioned Justin Hall.
Yeah. Sandin for me.
I wouldn't even want to be Engvall this week,
right?
In those meetings,
for sure. You were just benched last game. Here's your habits. That's a great one.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
Keith pulled him in. It was like, here's why. Here's our expectations of you. So it's a little bit. I think they call it in that coaching office a tightening. You give him a little tightening. Well, tighten him up.
If I can share my pre-show theory here now,
yes, we're ready for
time, that I think he probably is harping on that loss, and it did piss him off in the moment. And we heard him after the game when he was giving us his 2-second clips, the Tort style. But there's probably a part of him that liked that loss, because in the back of his mind, he knows, I can push these guys so much harder now than I would have been able to if they just had to beat Columbus 6 Cobb. Like, it's so much more of a learning experience for these guys. And he should be learning still, because they do this all the time. But, I'm sure part of him liked them losing that game so he could push harder.
It is hard to get players' attention when their habits are slipping and you win anyway. They don't perform well and they outscore their problems. Yeah. And you go in and you say, here's what I'm seeing. And they go, yeah. We're just going to keep winning. Thanks, bud. Yeah. So there is some weight to Sam's theory that it's like, hey, we can lose to Columbus on any given night when we play like that. So how are we going to be against the Bruins in game 1, in game 5, and game 7?
And it'd be easier to give them the benefit of the doubt if they played poorly against even an average team, but we know the numbers about facing bottom 8 teams, right?
5 wins, 13 tries.
5 wins, 13 tries. Do you know what the Lightning's record is in those games?
No, but I'm excited to hear.
20.
They are 13-0-1 for a 964 winning percentage, plus 32 goal differential, and the Bruins are 11-1 for a plus 32 goal differential. The least goal differential in those games is plus 4.
Useful or useless?
Extremely useful.
What does that tell us?
I mean, I don't know if you've looked at the standings today, but there's a certain other blue and white team that has hopped the Leafs in points percentage.
Just before we go into that, Sammy, just one more for me, and it kind of touches on what you're saying. I wouldn't have stopped at Justin Hall. I would have looked at the Chicago Blackhawks tonight, and I would have pulled somebody else out.
To me, it's Sandin. To me, it's Sandin. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Sandin, Engvall. Take 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
Don't take one.
I totally agree with that.
Okay, you know what? All right. Hey, Engvall, you have a seat up there, and I'm bringing in Hunt.
The only reason I would think that maybe you wouldn't want to do it is because you had to sit in the loss for 4 days. So if those guys are on the imaginary, whatever their 5th line is, for 3 practices or whatever, that's a long time to send that message. It's not like you play a day later and you send a message for a game and you're right back at it. It's a pretty long time to, you know, have guys kicking around the 5th line and the 7th or the 4th pair.
All right, you touched on it. Caught a good portion, not all of it, of Tampa Bay last night against Colorado.
Yeah, I was watching Islanders Ottawa. Sammy watched the other half of that game.
And then it also dawned on me that Tampa Bay hasn't been the best team on the road, but they're really, really good at home.
Yeah.
Only the Boston Bruins better. And all of a sudden, the Leafs don't have Game 7 any longer.
27 games at home, the Lightning have lost 4.
Not a good time to lose home ice advantage.
No, it's not good. Kipper.
Sammy?
I
It
watched.
wasn't good.
I watched the first half of that game before my eyes started to get a little bit heavy, but I had the thought that they may be better this year.
Tampa may be better than last year.
Points a year better. Colton is
Hagel's really taken strides.
and like Colton is exactly what the Leafs need in the bottom 6. Goes the right direction, takes the puck to the front of the net, gritty hits.
probably going to score 20. I don't even know where he's at, but he's got upside.
Hagel, like you said, has gone to another level. You know, like Sergachev looked unbelievable last night. Hedman still great.
You know, and
I think the Leafs are good,
I
but I just don't think they could be. I don't think they can beat them.
Oh, goodness me.
I get the Leafs were close last year against Tampa, but can you remember that it was close without Braden Point?
Yes, I can. Well, yeah, he was kind of
And
limping around
he
for.
really looked like he was fast last night
Yeah.
and happy and healthy. Don't know what it's going to look like in 6 weeks from now, but
Yeah.
man, oh man. Again, you're talking about a Toronto Maple Leaf team that they look at home records, and the two best teams in the league, the Boston Bruins and Tampa Bay, 22-2-3 are the Boston Bruins. As Sammy said, 21-4-2 at home for Tampa Bay. And those are the first two teams you got to play.
Yeah, but
that's just
Vasilevsky's only a
scary.
.920 save percentage right now in this season in 40 starts.
40 starts.
40
Did you
starts
see him
for
in the shootout
Vasilevsky.
last night?
They had no chance.
It was like the
It literally
All
looked
right.
like a brick
looked
wall.
like the school wall that I
Yeah.
used to hit the tennis ball against when I was like in grade 4.
All right, so what are we doing here? Digging up Tampa Bay here. What is the point?
I don't have a point, Barney. Other than
We
that,
don't. We
I am,
know.
I
We're
am
just a little discouraged today.
I'm
It's a little down off a Columbus loss.
I'm incredibly worried
Yeah.
that like if the Leafs don't do something in the bottom 6 or add a defenseman, like it could be less than 7 games this time.
Here's my takeaway when I go down the Tampa Bay Lightning and just it's name after name of guys who can do something. You know, they're Hagel, Killorn, Paul, Colton, and then you get down into it and it's Cirelli, but it's also Maroon and it's, Bogosian and guys that have a clear, they do something. And that has been a complaint on this show about the bottom 6 is like the old, what would you say you do here? Finding guys who have a purpose, whether it's physicality or killing penalties or whatever. So to me, Pat Kane's not the answer here. The bottom 6 need guys who have a purpose. And, Barbashev can provide some offense in the bottom 6 and some physical play. Sure. Maybe that becomes more of a priority than a guy like Kane.
All right, let's go to Sheldon Keefe on keeping the guys motivated because there's a lot of hockey here still to be played before we get to any stage against Tampa Bay and Boston. Let's just pick up on Sheldon Keefe talking about what he needs to do to keep the guys on track.
Well, I think there's a few things there. I think it's keeping the focus on the daily process of improving and having our game ready and not looking too far down the road. I mean, we know what we're building towards and working towards, but we need to continue to build and work towards that, not just wait for it to come. So that's really what it is for me, is just focusing on our daily process. And obviously got away on us the other day, so it's a really good opportunity for us to lean in on the guys and teach and reinforce what we want to be about as a team. And then you get another game here tonight.
Process.
But we just talked about, I think now that the motivation is what we were just talking about. Look at the standings, fellas. We had a, what were they up? 6-7 point cushion on Tampa when they had that hot stretch. You say, hey, fellas, here are the standings. Look at their home record. Look at the way they're playing.
They're only 14-12 on the road, by the way.
Who, Tampa?
Tampa.
Yeah. So they are not as good on the road. They are really damn good at home. You guys have to figure this out, play better. We're playing crappy teams. Time to accumulate some points here, fellas.
Boring thing to say here, but the best the Leafs have looked this season was when they had the D injuries, Muzzin goes down, Riley's out, even Brody out for a period, and it became team defense as a priority, right? The whole team.
It just seemed like
It slipped from
you would
there.
have been lucky to get 4 quality shots in the slot.
Couldn't get a
Right.
sniff against them.
Yeah.
Nothing.
They were above. And, it's definitely slipped. Is that
Since-
just midseason?
Since when?
I don't know, New Year's Eve?
Honestly, since Morgan Riley came back into the lineup.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't want, listen, I
It's
don't want,
not saying it is because of, but that is a fair demarcation point.
it really feels like, what was that first game back that he came? It wasn't against, it was against
Arizona.
Phoenix. Yeah, or Arizona. He tossed a pizza up the middle and they lost. I don't know. I don't want to turn this into a Morgan
No,
Riley
No,
bashing, but-
we're not. It's just there's something to be said about it, Sammy, that he changes the dynamic or where maybe guys are slotted. It's a different rhythm with him back there.
No doubt.
And we've seen him at his best. We've seen him good. We've seen the team thrive when Morgan's Morgan.
Yeah.
So why hasn't that level been reached by now?
Yeah, he hasn't found his game yet for me, where he's breaking the puck up the ice and confident and looks fast and shooting it. He hasn't found that yet. One thing I do want to, you mentioned him like where guys are slotted. Is there any scenario with who they add for this D-core coming in your mind where Rasmus Sandin is in the lineup in game 1 for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Like every way, barring injury, every way that I shake out who they add, what happens. So
He seems like he can't get the puck out against a hard forecheck.
Well, that's
whenever
it.
I watch the games, that's what he can't do.
And so the problem is, and you may have seen some of the same commentary that I've seen on Twitter recently, but I've also thought about is like it's a bit of a Travis Dermott thing here, where you've got a guy on the third pair who doesn't kill penalties and he doesn't have offensive upside, right? He didn't light it up on the power play when he had his chance. He has good numbers when he's sheltered and on the third pair, but you just don't trust that he's going to be a great defender either. So, we talk about what you're going to do here. It's hard for me to see Sandin in, assuming they add somebody. And I am saying all this, assuming they're adding somebody.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's no question, as we've stated many times, the lily pad has leaped.
Sure, he loves that
Nice.
name.
What?
He's been the lily pad as long as we've discussed him.
I know. I always laugh at that name. Anyways,
It's a play off his name. That's it.
yeah, okay.
But yeah, no, it's so anyway, keep that in mind with Sandin. Can he play his way into the lineup? Can he play his way into higher prominence? Does a trade affect that?
Don't you agree with me though on Sandin? It's like the more the guys lean on him, he can't get it going north.
Yeah.
It really feels like he gets
Hard
bogged.
forechecks are
there's,
tough for
and
him.
there's times when he could step up, and I don't know who he dropped.
Oh my God.
2 nights ago.
He has great hit timing.
like in front of the Leaf bench.
It was against
where
Columbus.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it kind of, you can see the whole bench go, wow, we like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Can you do that again?
Like,
No.
you guys saw him at the blue and white thing the other night or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he's just not a big person.
No, he's not a
So
big person.
you could have great timing and you can be physical.
Yeah.
But it's
But it's
tough
on your
when you're-
terms.
Yeah, it's tough when you're at Toyota Yaris and not a Ford Explorer.
When he caught I forget who it was. Was it Kent Johnson he caught?
Yeah, it was.
So and then they flashed to the bench and TJ Brody's there and he just had that big, stupid, toothless grin on his face. Like he's just like, oh my God, I'm so happy that happened. But anyways,
That's fun.
yeah.
All right, we got more clips.
I think we got a couple more.
All
Wanna
right.
Go back to Sheldon talking about Pat Kane.
Yeah, the idea of not the trade Kane, but what they defending Kane, right?
Yep.
Just how much you have to be aware, take away his time and space, and take away his options. That's just really important. I mean, he's the vision and the skill and the ability to control a game is better than anybody, really, in terms of how he can slow the game down, speed the game up when he wants to, and find people. He's an exciting player to watch that way, but he's certainly not one we want to watch. We need to be able to get on top of him quick.
See, you asked me something earlier in the show about maybe the what kind of feel he would have as in showcasing himself, and of course with 3 Stanley Cups and the greatest Chicago Blackhawk in history, just nothing to prove there. But he's not a dumb guy either. He knows a nice show tonight would get out quicker out of the city of Toronto than anywhere else on the planet.
Kane
100%.
scores 3 tonight,
Right?
boys. It's our whole show tomorrow.
You know it. And he knows it. He knows it. And not that it would make him lean one way or another, but he's a proud guy, and there's nothing more than he would like is to put on a good show on the biggest stage in hockey.
Yeah.
I really am confident. I might even put some of my hard-earned dollars on a Patrick Kane goal tonight.
Well, if for a guy who's been a year and a half, 2 years of nothing to play for, there's a bit of purpose right now as he plays towards the deadline to show people he's healthy. Toronto's one of the team that may have interest. We all know he makes ungodly sums of money, so it's hard, but you can see him being like, okay, the Rangers are over. If I want to go, I need to be desirable. You're right, Sammy. I would bet on a solid performance from him tonight.
Do we have a clip of the Leaf power play that Sheldon went to? You want to listen to it?
I do. Let's have it.
Holy Jesus.
So that's an overall theme for us is just to really have an increase in the pace and the consistency in which the puck arrives to the net. So that's all the players on the ice buying into that. And I think we have seen that for some time now. But it so happened that, there's a little bit of improvising the other night with Willie to Mitch and then to Morgan. But we think through the process of attacking the net consistently, we'll get more of those types of plays that are broken that we can, improvise on.
So he just thinks they're too perimeter.
Yes, I love attack the net with consistency.
Not getting anything through. We got to get something through.
Because it's when you get a team scrambling that the elite talent of Mitch Marner and Matthews and those guys can really do their damage, right? You get someone on their heels, slightly out of position. But when they're in their structure and you're just passing it around trying one-timers.
There's just nothing scarier in the playoffs than a hot power play against you.
Yeah,
it just changes everything.
Yeah.
The way you think, hit, how you think the officials look at you, what you can get away with, what you can't. It's just such a big dynamic.
Yeah. I'll give you the power play percentages of the last 5 Cup champions. Last year, Colorado's 33%.
In the playoffs?
In the playoffs.
Oh, my God. Really?
The year before that, Tampa Bay, 32% in the playoffs. The year before that, they're 23% in the playoffs. Then the Blues win a cup with a crummy power play. I think it was in the teens. And then the year before that was the Capitals at almost 30% in the playoffs.
Got to have it.
I mean, you don't get many chances at 5-on-5. There's no room. It's one of the chances you have to use your elite talent, which the Leafs have in spades.
Well, and just for your homework tonight, go find out the last few years of the Leafs power play in the last few months of the regular season and into their first rounds that they've lost.
Yeah, they're in the teens and below.
It's a disaster.
Yeah, the first half they're like 30-some%. The second half they're like 50, 18%, and then playoffs they're like 14%.
With the same $40 million players.
Yeah.
Well, the thing he said in that clip that stuck out to me the most, and it's the thing that I notice most when I watch him play, is the pace line. I feel
on
like
the power play.
Yeah. I feel like they get really a little bit lackadaisical. Like it's almost like there's too many good guys out there and they're like, we'll eventually find one.
Yeah.
The puck will eventually land in a good spot for us. And it doesn't seem that they're snapping it around as fast as a lot of other ones do. Do you agree with that? Or
well, it's tough because they're a top 5 power play by percentage,
for sure.
But it's slipped since Christmas.
Yeah. I do believe that's where Morgan has to get better at the top.
Yeah.
The pace
is to be more decisive, to have better pace, to mask a few more passes.
But is that going to
less
happen?
tells?
But would you want him to hit a few early and make people think he might shoot it, or is that?
I liked his goal that he was not typically in a spot that you've seen him.
Right, somewhere else. That's right, moving around.
Exactly.
Yeah, good finish. But that's, Sheldon's right. That comes off making them scramble.
But do you believe that he can get faster?
Yeah, I mean, if you
sure
lean
hope
on him.
they had a few meetings,
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe.
If you lean on him, you can make him
a few practices
zip it a
this
bit.
week.
we've been watching this for how many years now? It's at some point, the definition of insanity is trying things over and over and over and expecting different results.
Trade for Tyson Barrie, Sam. I don't know.
No, well, it didn't work with him either.
No.
His shin pads or the end glass was the Tyson Barrie story with the Leafs.
All right, here we are, a little over 2 weeks to go to the trade deadline. I wanted to get into this the other day, but we ran out of time. But this was the thought of sitting out players now in the event that they get traded.
Mm-hmm. Trade-related reasons.
I get that you don't want to lose an asset this time of year, but if we see some of the better players, if a kid and his parent, his dad's taking him to a game and maybe his favorite player is Jacob Chychrun, should he not be able to go and watch Jacob Chychrun play?
Yeah, it's tough. In the end, we are an entertainment business. So there's a case to be made that, he should. But you look at the NBA, they do this, right? They have time off that they just take.
Okay, but not 2 weeks.
Well,
not
and that's it.
6 games.
So I also think it's very dumb to continue to play someone you might get a first and a prospect for when you're trying to lose anyway. So I get why teams want to do it. I fully support it if I were in the front office. But yeah, if you're the league, how do you like watching teams who you say are not tanking, not play guys for 3 weeks?
Yeah.
3 weeks is too long.
When I saw that tweet, was that Saturday night they put that out before their game? The trade release related ones. I'm like, oh, it must be getting done tonight.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, if it's that serious, it's getting done tonight. And the fact that we're still sitting here, 3 or 4 days later and nothing's happened, it's kind of weird.
If nothing else, I thought it would have been to put pressure on the other teams to make them think it's happening. We're this close on a deal. He's sitting out. Give us your final offer.
There's a lot of gamesmanship going on right now. And what gets out, what's leaked, what's not leaked, what's a tester, public perception. Yeah, there's a lot going on right now.
And I imagine some teams who are up against cap, like the Leafs, want to get as close as they can to the deadline to have the most cap space possible. Yes. So I imagine, okay, so you're close on a Chychrun deal. You say trade related reasons. You put them in the press box. You say to the other teams, we're doing it. Let's see your best offer. They say, all right, here's what we got. And then you say, okay, thanks. Yeah, we'll probably trade him to that team we said we were going to in 2 weeks.
We'll get back to you.
Yeah. And then you kind of have an idea of where they're at, although maybe there's some dishonesty there, and then that hurts a relationship. I don't know.
And then what about coming out of, for example, how long, things, Kyper, how much longer do you think this Chychrun thing is going to drag out? You're having a guy come in who hasn't played in how long?
It's Bill Armstrong's been adamant that, the pieces that he's wanted, it's been well documented, well leaked, well reported. Is there a thought that if he doesn't get his grade A blue chip prospect, that he doesn't move him at all? And it's limited, guys. It's still limited in terms of who can do what and the willingness to be all in. It's not a strong market in a flat cap.
Mm-hmm.
And at 4.6, there's a premium on Jacob Chychrun. It's not Jacob Chychrun, just the player. It's Jacob Chychrun, the $4.6 million player.
Right, same as Brandon Hagel.
For 2 more years.
We're not just trading the player, we're trading a value contract.
That's right.
Yeah.
And not everybody can find a player like this and fit it in for 2 more years. So if he's stubborn enough, if Bill Armstrong's stubborn enough, and he has got a bit of a reputation now, I'll tell you that, as as a guy that a lot of general managers in a perfect world would, not have the patience to go through a process.
Except Kyle Dubas, of course.
Kyle's
Yeah,
had
they're
some good luck
boys,
with
huh?
him.
Yeah.
But there's others that say he's tough to talk to.
Really?
And there's a level of frustration sometimes with him.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All I know is I saw him and his staff go to the draft all dressed the same. And I
Really?
was-
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, he's different.
Were they wearing Hawaiian shirts? What were they wearing?
I know they were all wearing the same matching. Was it a blue suit or something like that? Like they all dressed exactly the same, and it was like
But-
I get showing cohesion, but he's clearly a different type of guy.
But if he gets what he wants, it's a game changer for him,
Yeah.
the organization, the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years. And that's what you hold out. He wants a home run with Jacob Chikrin and his contract.
And Kraus too.
I would assume that everybody's got a price now.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the other thing, too, is we're going to watch between now and the trade deadline how many guys go on waivers, the back and forth. Hey, all of a sudden, who's on IR? Who's on long-term IR? Oh, my goodness. There's a $5-6 million contract out of nowhere. Bad back, bad knee.
Yeah, a bunch of people about to get hurt.
A bunch of people are about to get hurt.
Yeah. Which is, my friend Sam McKee would say, sick league, Gary.
Sick league.
Sick calf, like
Yeah, great job.
I'm trying to bury it. One thing that I saw, one random, I think it was Dave Pegnota from, I don't know how to say it, from the fourth period, mentioned that Mackenzie Weegar, that contract could potentially get traded. Well, not contract, that player could potentially get traded before his no move activates on July 1st. He mentioned Ottawa as a potential partner who would have to get rid of Zaitsev. But, I am curious to see what the Flames do here because this team is killing me. Like, they're better than this, aren't they? Going to miss the playoffs after making the massive moves they made?
How about Jonathan Huberdeau?
You know what he's on pace for? 58 points.
Yeah.
After
Woof.
100 and some point season,
There are some
105.
nights I'm not sure he's playing 15 minutes.
There's some nights I'm not sure he's playing.
Period.
End of sentence.
Yes.
Oh.
When you watch the games, they need way more from him. They need Markstrom better. Sounds like Sutter's pretty hard on old Markey. He needs to get his head right.
Be kind of scary to think that you'd have to think about making major moves when you've made major moves.
Yeah, you just replaced limbs on the team, and now you're going to replace a heart or something. I don't know.
Wow. Okay, give me a score tonight. Does Chicago score?
Bachman Turner overdrive, taking care of business for the Leafs tonight. 5-1.
Yo, you give them one because Chicago has played 19 games with 1 goal or less.
Oh, my.
The worst in the league.
Oof.
You're giving them one when?
First shift.
I'm shooting my shot here. I'm going 9-1 Leafs.
Austin? How many does Austin
Now
have
they're
on
losing.
schedule to play tonight?
Now they're
He
losing.
gets 5
Oh, they're
to
losing.
get back on pace in the Rocket Richard.
I'm
chase.
betting
All right.
on the Blackhawks now.
Okay, our thanks to Darren Spanky Pang for
Thanks,
coming in
Spankers.
studio. That was fantastic. Mark Lazarus from the Athletic joining us, giving us a good rundown of the Chicago Blackhawks and what we can expect tonight. All of you watching tonight over 1,300 on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. We're back tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Real Kyper and Bourne.